Okay, so now this is the question and answer session, so that if anybody had given you questions, you can ask them to me and we'll proceed that way.
Awesome. I want to thank you, Carolyn, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us and answer questions. It's truly a blessing.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's fun.
One of our questions, because we actually want to get one of the tower gardens. Timothy wants 3 because he's Timothy, but he's not the one that would take care of it. So
I have munchkins for that.
You know what? We homeschool, so I've heard you can write it off as a school expense because of the science that, there's so much that we could do with it. So anyway, do the seeds come with the tower garden? Like, how does that work exactly?
So in the base kit, they send you a little container that has an inert material that you put the seeds in to start seedlings, or you can order seedlings. But if you're doing it for homeschooling reasons, you would want to plant your own and the kids would see them grow from seed to whatever. Mm-hmm. And they do send some seeds. Okay. But we have resources of places to buy organic seeds. And we in particular like, what is the name of that company? I'll have to think about it. Rick's our seed orderer and grower. He actually is the one that takes care of the tower garden at our house.
You could learn great things from him.
Yes,
yeah.
That's a good example.
But he likes heirloom seeds, and we do have a company that has heirloom seeds that we use.
Yeah, I definitely need that info. We like to get the heirloom plants when we had our garden at the other house, but this would just be so much more cost effective. And like, I find myself going to the grocery store at least twice a week because we get so much fresh produce. You can't buy a ton in advance to where you can go once every 2 weeks. So it would save us so much money on gas and would be so much better for us, honestly.
And with how much we eat, we can have 3.
Well, so that's not a pipe dream. There is a family, a trio that you get extra stuff with. So when they first came out, I bought one. Then the next year I bought another one. The next year I bought another one. But if they had that program at the beginning and I bought all 3 at the same time, then there's a huge discount in doing that. And you get extra parts and all that kind of stuff. Extra tonic.
Okay.
And do you suggest the grow lights like through the winter that have...
Yeah, you can't grow inside without them. Okay. I mean, they are developed. They have a really high brightness, and they've evolved. So initially there were these things that hung off the cage.
Yeah.
And they were kind of unwieldy, and they were fluorescent bulbs, and they didn't have nearly the brightness that the new ones do. So now I have some of those that I don't know what to do with. Because we have the new ones. Well, I guess we use one set, but yeah, the lights are wonderful. Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Sorry, we're not that far from a place with lots of planes and a ton of noise.
Most people call that an airport.
Oh.
Yes, thank you. It's been a long day. Anyway, so there was a bunch of planes going over, so I was trying not to have the annoying background noise.
Yeah.
So something else that's been brought up is, people get really excited about the shake, and then, soy has kind of become a bad word in the culture. So what is different about this soy protein to where, you as a breast cancer survivor don't have a problem using it?
Right. So there's been a lot of research that shows that the initial research was wrong. It was done on not humans, and there was a lot of presupposition, and so there are some webinars on Healthy Living Revolution that talk about that, and ours is different because it is water washed whole soy. It is not fragmented. That's our whole gig. No fragmented, isolated anything. And so the water washing breaks it up, but it's still whole food. And then Timothy's got the whole story on how your body digests and absorbs whole food.
Well, as it so happens, I'm planning on doing a brief video about that.
The phytoestrogens.
The nature of phytoestrogens and how they affect the body and what soy actually is doing internally for the body.
Mm-hmm.
And as Maria mentioned, you're a breast cancer survivor. That's like the public enemy number one for breast cancer survivors, but it's actually not. And
no, and different doctors, all the doctors in the Juice Plus world have read and digested all of that information and recommend it without any reservation. And interestingly enough, I was at Ohio State, that's where I was treated, and I asked about that a few years ago with their nutritionist, and she said, well, actually the protocol is changing. Now, they haven't put it out on the racks yet over there, but she said, 1 to 2 servings of whole soy. She'd actually been and heard, I think it was Dr. Du Bois, do this talk somewhere. And she said, I agreed with him. So it's not the taboo that it used to be.
And just dipping into tomorrow just a little bit, Asian cultures who use soy as a primary staple ingredient actually have a much lower incidence per capita of breast cancer than what American
Right, that's true.
Their American equivalents do.
Yeah.
And with the considerable increase in soy that they eat over top of what your average American does, the numbers don't add up.
Right.
If it was actually causing the problems that it's claimed to cause or has been purported to cause, there would be a much higher rate of incidence.
Well, I think that you have to do all things. There's not a blanket solution. There are people who are genuinely allergic to soy, genuinely do not do well with it. And someday the company will give us a non-soy product because people do still ask for it. But I don't know that that's going to be anytime real soon. But yeah, I mean, it was a real concern for me initially. And so I'm really comfortable with a shake a day. And my doctors are too.
Which is an important point I think is worth bringing up. From our own experience, we have found that once there's actually a conversation had, most doctors are just fine with
Right.
with Juice Plus.
Well, certainly mine at Ohio State, which is, they're pretty narrow in their thinking about a lot of things. And so I just loved my oncologist. She was just wonderful, and I don't really get to see her much anymore. I still go every year, but I don't get to see her. And she actually hired somebody to work with nutrition and her chemo patients. And she had a young fellowship guy working with her, and he said, oh, she'll never let you eat, This was in reference to Juice Plus per se. She'll never let you have that. Too many antioxidants in it. Okay. And I was scared and didn't know anything, but I knew enough to wait and ask her. I said, well, I'll ask her. And then, of course, she looked at it, read the label, and thought it was great. And another story that's kind of interesting about all that is, so going down the road of treatment, after you finish chemo, you go on estrogen inhibitors. And one of the drugs has a bone loss side effect. So they do your DEXA scan, then you go on it, and 2 years later they repeat your DEXA scan. And she said, I've never met anybody like you. And why is that? Well, your bone density is better than it was. And I've never in the history of my practice seen anybody on this drug who also, by the way, is menopausal, have an improved bone density. And to prove it, I've fallen a couple of times with no broken bones. That wasn't intentional, but it happened. So, yeah.
Seems like an interesting way of proving concept, but it does work.
Right.
So I was having a conversation with a fellow worker today, talking about the omegas. We were actually discussing the effects of the omegas on different systems throughout the body, whether it be from cognitive abilities, memory,
Mm-hmm.
or even moving into our skin health and our connective tissue. In this case, we were lifting a lot of really heavy stuff, and our body was telling us, "Hey, by the way, this hurts. This is getting a little old." And we were discussing, look, we can go ahead and take some of this extra plant-based omega, and this omega will actually help. These omegas will actually help our body to rebuild what's being damaged, even as we're using it.
Yeah.
Our body. So anytime we're really straining ourselves in those ways, we're able to take extra Juice Plus. It's not like it's a prescribed medication. It's food. And when your body needs more, when it's being used extensively, oftentimes we'll eat extra. And that's one of the things that's been really great with the Juice Plus. If someone has something coming up where their body is under a greater stress load than normal, the Juice Plus has been a great option to be able to say, hey, go eat some more.
Yeah.
You know? And
yeah, well, you know, and one of the studies that's in the Journal of Sports Medicine and Nutrition showed that the Cobra forces, who were under lots of stress in Europe, and this was just on their straight, you know, 2, 2, and 2, but their body repaired so much more quickly. And sometimes an athlete can overstress, get too much oxidative stress, and their body doesn't repair, and their body gets torn down by that amount of massive exercise. So whether it's work that you're doing or work that, you know, an athlete's doing, or work that, you know, a Cobra force person is doing, it's just good to know that your body can be completely repaired. The muscle protein.
Timothy had me mute it real quick because he was going in the front door, and it's incredibly squeaky. I haven't put more WD-40 on that yet. So I think we can go ahead and draw the question and answer to a close.
Okay.
I know there'll probably be more on the event tomorrow as we're coming to the end of things, but I appreciate all you guys for being on here, and I think we had a great time of discussion. Again, we would love to do this again. Maybe you guys would like, let's do a 3-way call. We can have calls with Carolyn and Timothy and I, and we can ask all sorts of questions that we want to, and let's just have a conversation, because, you know, we all love to talk about this, so we could have a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks. This was fun. Loved it. I am going to stop the recording.